We're going to do the smoking effects mind map, and then which will teach you a lot of the content plus revise it, and then y'all will do the last open-ended question. Okay, explain point 3 again. You mean this one? Okay, what about point 3 would you like to explain? So when you have anaerobic respiration, whenever you use anaerobic respiration, it's like when you went to the canteen and you bought food without paying the full price. Okay, that's anaerobic respiration. And so you will incur a debt because now you owe the uncle. Okay, so whenever body uses anaerobic, you owe the body oxygen now. Got it? So that explains the first part, incurring an oxygen debt. And yeah, the rest of the sentence for point 3 is just the definition of oxygen debt. Okay? Yeah. Welcome. Why does our body prefer aerobic respiration? Because it's more efficient. It uses less glucose to produce more energy. It's much more efficient. That's why our body prefers it. Yeah. And also, like, do you prefer going to the canteen uncle and every time you owe him money? No, right? You feel very like shameful. You feel very awkward. You only want to rarely do that. So that's why body prefers aerobic. Okay, now let's do this. Draw a cigarette with me. Okay, like this. Yes. Then you can draw the smoke coming out. Okay. So why do people smoke? Because it makes them feel good, right? Because I'm pretty sure if you go to a person who smokes and say, hey, why do you smoke? They won't be like, oh, because I like to kill myself, I like the health, detriments. No, they will say it's because it feels good, right? But a funny thing is that there's this happiness study where they ask people like at random points in their life, how do you feel now? How happy do you feel? And what activity are you doing? Okay. And so they found out that smoking is one of the lowest happiness activities. Like it gives you a bit more than 0. Like the points was 0.6. Okay. And compare that with like going out in nature and sports, right? Those are like 10 points plus 10 happiness. Then watching TV and playing video games is like plus 2.6, which is also not very good. So, talking to friends, that was around plus 10 also. So those are the activities that actually make people happy. Smoking is very, very little happiness, 0.6. Okay, so in case you're someone who may be peer pressured to smoke, just remember that the happiness you get, right, is so pathetic that it won't be worth it. Yeah. Okay, anyway, what are the 3 chemicals that will, that are harmful? So the first one here starts with N. Can you fill in the answer for me? If you can remember all 3, you just list out all 3. Okay, in the chat to me. Good job, yes. Okay, so the first one is nicotine. Nicotine. And this is the one that makes people feel happy. Okay, but it's very little happiness. So how do you describe it? Can you describe an attribute of nicotine? Okay, hint, it starts with A, and it's the reason why people will keep buying more cigarettes. Okay, good job. Yes, those who said addictive, correct. And it can cause social problems. Like you can become an irresponsible spender because you're like, yeah, I need to buy more, right? So social problems. And I saw someone else said adrenaline, which is correct. Nicotine stimulates adrenaline secretion. Okay, adrenaline, I'm sure you guys have heard before, is the fight or flight hormone. And it's also the hormone that, let's say I'm playing laser tag with my students in the outing recently, right? Then when I'm going to get shot, I feel the adrenaline, the excitement, there's fear, there's that high of excitement, right? So when you smoke and there's this nicotine that goes in your system, it simulates that high, that excitement. Okay, it simulates the excitement because of the adrenaline release, right? So adrenaline, what does it do? It has these 2 effects, okay? One is it increases the ease of blood clotting. Means it's easier for your blood to clot. Why? Because this hormone is for fight or flight when it's dangerous, right? So when it's dangerous, you might get cut, you might bleed. If let's say a tiger is chasing you, it might bite you, right? So you want to clot your blood easier to not bleed out to death. That's why adrenaline increases the ease of blood clotting. Okay. Yeah, I'll explain why I wrote a alphabet B there later. And it also increases your blood pressure. Because when you are trying to run away from the tiger, you need your blood to pump faster around your body, and that increases the blood pressure. Okay, these are the effects. Now, next one, carbon monoxide, not dioxide, monoxide. So carbon monoxide has these effects. It damages the inner lining of blood vessels. Damages the inner lining. So the blood vessels, right, the inside, the innermost lining gets destroyed slowly by this. And I'll put the alphabet C. Later I'll explain why. Okay, another thing it does is that it binds to something. What does it bind to? Okay, I give hint. It binds irreversibly to this. And the downside is that you can't transport oxygen as well anymore. So can you guess what it is? Okay, another hint. It's found inside red blood cells. Okay, another hint. It's a protein that carries oxygen. Okay, so the answer is hemoglobin. Good job. So right, think of the red blood cell like the MRT. You know, you go MRT, right? Then you see there's a carriage. Every door that opens is a carriage, right? It's a different carriage. So the hemoglobin is like the carriages. And then you are the oxygen. So the oxygen goes on the carriage, and then the MRT train takes you away, right? And brings you elsewhere. So that is hemoglobin. It's like the carriages of the MRT. And when it binds irreversibly, means like imagine someone sits down on the seat and they never get up ever. Okay, they're just like, no, this is my seat now. I'm gonna live here on this seat. Okay, like imagine a homeless person comes and like, okay, these seats are mine now, right? And then you can't sit down, so it will reduce how much people the MRT can carry. Okay, so that is binds irreversibly to hemoglobin. Okay, so then you cannot carry as much oxygen in your blood. The last one is tar. Okay, so tar is, I'll let you fill in this blank. It starts with C. And it's called this because it causes cancer. So what is this C word? Such chemicals will cause, it's not chemical. Such chemicals will cause cancer. Okay, Jaden, David, Kendra, Raka, correct. Stephanie, correct. Carcinogen. A carcinogen is a chemical that causes cancer. Carcinogen. Okay, how does the carbon monoxide damage the inner lining, right? The reason why it damages is due to chemistry, because carbon monoxide is not a stable molecule. So whenever it binds to something, right, it just wants to bind, like, because it's so unstable. Like imagine those people who are maybe there's some of you here who's like really desperate for a relationship. Okay, so whoever they find, right, they quickly find someone and like they will then go into a relationship. I'm sure you've known some people like this. And then what happens is that because they don't care who they choose, right? Then it affects the relationship lah. Okay, that person suffers, they also suffer. Okay, so that is carbon monoxide. It just goes to anyone. It's like, oh, I want you, and then they quickly like bind to them. So it binds to hemoglobin, right? That is one of the ways that it will bind. Just anyhow, and it binds very strongly because they're super desperate. And also, it can bind to the inner lining, the cells on the inner lining of these blood vessels. So it binds to them, right? And then it can break off other structures. Like, let's say I see a couple, right? Then if I'm very desperate, I go and break into the couple and I try and like steal the girlfriend. Then I break them up, right? Yeah, so that's what carbon monoxide does also. So that's how it damages the inner lining. It will break the other chemicals, the other structures that are already there. Okay, so, but this is not in syllabus, you don't have to explain that. Yeah. Now, tar also paralyzes something. Can you tell me the answer here? It starts with C. So this C word is tiny little hairs that are lining the inside of our airways. So these are cells of the airways. And on top, they have these little hairs. So the point of the hairs is they sweep mucus plus irritants. So any irritants that are trapped in the mucus will be swept out. Sweep out of the airways. So paralyzes cilia. Good job. A lot of people remembered cilia. Okay, so the cilia are paralyzed. Okay, like imagine they tar, right? Just sticks to them like a glue, and then it doesn't let them move. So when they can't move, they can't sweep anymore, the mucus and the they can't sweep the stuff out. Oh no, please tell me. No, wait. Is it here? Oh, sorry, wrong. Please tell me they remembered my stuff. Oh, okay, good. It's still there. So paralyzes cilia, cannot sweep the stuff out, leads to this thing called chronic bronchitis. Okay. Chronic bronchitis is when the airways get inflamed because there's all these like irritants stuck inside. The body will produce more mucus to try and get rid of the stuff, and there'll be coughing because you now need to physically force the stuff out. If this goes on, right, it can lead to a worse event, can lead to emphysema. Emphysema. Okay, during emphysema, what was the difference, right, between this and emphysema? Is there's this big event that happens. The alveoli, they're like grape clusters, right? Okay, what happens is the partition walls in between them break down. So when the walls break down, why would the person suffer? Why is this bad? Can you tell me in the chat? Alveoli partition walls break down. So why is this bad? Okay, break down the walls. Why got problem, Okay, hint, it decreases something. Okay, good, going on the right track. Magesh, not exactly prevents, because prevents means completely stops, right? But yes, something about gaseous exchange. Gaseous exchange. Okay, so the answer is decreases the surface area to volume ratio. Don't just say decrease surface area. Yeah, decrease SE to V, and that means less efficient. Okay. So other than breaking down, the alveoli themselves are supposed to be stretchy, they can expand and they can shrink back, right? Like rubber band, but these rubber bands have lost their elasticity. You all know those very old rubber bands, right? Then it doesn't come back anymore. It's just very like wide and long, right? Those old rubber bands that lost their elasticity and very easy to snap them. So that is what happens to the emphysema patient. The alveoli become like that old rubber band. So what are the symptoms? Okay, we will have shortness of breath. Means that every time I feel like no air. Okay, very tired, very tired. Okay, they have wheezing, which is this sound they make when the lungs like breathe in and out. And we will say their lungs are inflated with air. Inflated with air. Okay, but the thing is that if you can breathe in, but you cannot breathe out efficiently, right? Then you cannot take new breaths in. So that's their state. Like a rubber band that is very old and loose, but cannot come back anymore. So their lungs are inflated with air and very hard to breathe out. So that is emphysema. That's the difference. Okay, this is optional. I'm asking whether you all want it or not. So do you guys want me to explain how smoking can lead to heart attack? How the chemicals can increase the chance of heart attack? Yes, just vote, just say yes or no. Or like, is it important to you? Okay, we have a lot of people saying yes. All right. So the A, B, and C that I wrote here, that's things that will contribute to heart attack. Okay, they increase risk of heart attack. So how is it even related? Okay, there are these arteries. Arteries usually carry oxygenated blood. Okay, and they bring blood to the heart. What is the name of these arteries that bring blood to the heart? Okay, what artery? Something artery. Starts with C. Tianxin correct. Shafika, Jaden, Stephanie, Xiaojun correct. Brian, Rakha correct. Coronary artery. So coronary arteries bring the blood with oxygen and nutrients to your heart. Okay, I should move this stuff down. Yes, so they bring oxygen and nutrients to the heart muscles, so that your heart can pump. If not, it will stop pumping, right? And that's a heart attack. So why would smoking affect this? How does it even affect? Okay, so let's look at A and C. So for C, I already explained just now how it damages the lining, right? Because carbon monoxide is very toxic. Okay, it's like this toxic, desperate person who will come and try to like just bind with anyone, and it will damage a lot of people in the process. Okay, that's C. Then A, blood pressure. Why does that also affect the lining, the inner lining? So you see, this is a damage, right? And the damage is caused by A and C. So why does more blood pressure, cause this? Because if the pressure inside, right, is very high, exerting on the walls, there's more wear and tear. It will exert more pressure, more wear and tear on the walls over time. Okay, so that's why higher blood pressure increases the chance of all these damage. Okay, so once you have this damage, right, there are fats being transported in your blood. Okay, and the fats, they can get stuck here in the damaged. Okay, and if they stick, right, the thing is that they like to bind to each other. So once got one, it will attract more to stick. Okay, and then they will have a bunch here, all sticking. And this is a fatty deposit that builds up. Okay, fatty deposit. Yeah, so it just keeps building up over time, especially if the person has an unhealthy lifestyle, unhealthy diet. There'll be more fats in the blood, and therefore more can get stuck easier. Okay, one day, if this fatty deposit breaks, ruptures, right, it can break. So when it breaks, the body doesn't realize the difference. It just thinks that, oh no, blood vessel damage, people, emergency. Let's do blood clotting. So it will have this blood clotting process, okay? And that blood clotting process is increased because B is ease of blood clotting increase, right? Adrenaline. So this increases the rate of the blood clotting. And it will trap red blood cells to stop the bleeding. But actually, there's no bleeding, right? It's a false alarm. Yeah, so this happens. And if it blocks the whole pathway, it blocks the passage, then this cannot be transported. Cannot transport, right? Then the heart doesn't get. So the heart muscle cells start dying. That's a heart attack. Okay, so now they all see how the smoking, the chemicals can increase the chance of heart attack. Okay, I'm going to move on from this page soon because I know people are copying. You can start doing the next question, which is the last question already. Do the last question on the next page. Okay, I move on from this in 10 seconds. Actually, 5 seconds. Yeah, and don't worry if you can't copy everything, I will send this whole document to you. Oh, yes, good question. So this process, whenever you get fatty deposits, is called, what condition is this called? If the doctor sees this, what would they say? Oh, you have what? What diagnosis? Brian is correct, Jaden correct. So if A, it's quite a long, complicated word. Yeah, Raga is correct. Atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis is when you have fatty deposits accumulating on the inside of your arteries. Okay, and it narrows the space inside. Arteriosclerosis. So arteriosclerosis increase your chance of heart attack. Okay, next question. Whoa, cannot show your answer. Okay, so here's the question. So it's asking you about fetus, or a baby rather, if the mother is a smoker. Okay, so like during the pregnancy, then here's the fetus. Yes, I know, it's terrible drawings, okay? The tiny one, the tiny guy inside is fetus. So where does the fetus get its oxygen from? From the mother, right? The fetus isn't breathing using its own lungs yet. It's not even exposed to the air. It's inside. So the oxygen must come from the mother and be transported to the fetus. Okay, so that's the hint already. Then your job is to explain why the baby, when it's born, might be low birth mass. That means they're lighter than normal. Maybe they're smaller than normal also. Okay, so why? I give you all 4 minutes. Can? Yes, 4:48. And once again, you don't need to send your answer. You just write your own paper, point form. Use as much short forms as you want. this is just to train your thought process. I don't need a perfect answer. Let's resume. Wow, only 3 people. The rest not back. Are you back? Ready? Okay. So here is the answer. And I'll just go through like important points, okay? So cigarette smoke has the carbon monoxide. It binds irreversibly. That means it doesn't unbind to hemoglobin, the fetus's hemoglobin. So mother got hemoglobin in her blood, fetus got its own hemoglobin in its blood, okay? Such that it cannot transport oxygen anymore, reduce the ability of the fetus blood, I should add here fetus blood, to transport oxygen, okay? Reduce ability. So fetus cells are deprived of oxygen. And why do they need oxygen? For aerobic respiration. Why do they need that? So the fetus cells can release energy. Okay. So without enough energy, why is that bad for the fetus? Because that means less mitosis can happen. Okay, if you don't know that term, you can just say less cell division happens. Because fetus, as he or she grows, right, needs to divide and have more and more cells. So cell division is necessary for growing. Okay, so cell division allows you to grow. If you have less of it, you grow less. So it will grow less than normal throughout the pregnancy. And that's why they might be born with low birth mass. Okay, so this is the approach. You should use carbon monoxide. Don't say nicotine, don't say tar. Don't say like the tar will give the mother cancer or something. Like that's not the direct answer. You need to give the most direct answer. Okay, because let's see tar, right? For tar, what can you say? For tar, you can say mother might get chronic bronchitis, emphysema, or get cancer, right? But how do those directly make the fetus lighter? Okay, maybe nicotine, but how? How would you explain for nicotine? You can say nicotine increase blood pressure, but that doesn't answer this, right? You can say adrenaline, ease of blood clotting, but again, why would blood clotting be involved with the fetus being, smaller? And yeah, it doesn't explain, right? There's no direct explanation. So we should, nicotine affects development and causes miscarriage. Okay, but how? That one is miscarriage, right? And misdevelopment, wrong development. But this one is not about wrong development. This one is just it grows less than it should. Okay, blood clotting, less blood is transported. All right, so if blood clots and it blocks the vessels, right, it wouldn't just be about less blood transported. These kind of events would usually cause the death of organs or even the whole person. So like when there's a blood clot in the coronary artery, the whole heart might die. Okay, so if there's a blood clot that's on a vessel towards the fetus, the whole fetus, he or she might die. So we are looking for a chemical that slowly reduces its growth. So which is the best explanation? That would be carbon monoxide. It slowly reduces its growth. Okay, because whenever you smoke, right, the carbon monoxide is not enough to instantly kill you. Because if you breathe in a lot of carbon monoxide, it will bind to all your hemoglobin until you die, right? But with each cigarette, it's just a slight amount. So that's why this slowly deprives the fetus of oxygen. Slowly, it will grow less than it should be growing. So it's the best answer we can give. Okay, must use the most direct explanation in any question you are attempting.